Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. It's finally November. Hopefully you all had a lovely Halloween yesterday. As you can see, we've still got some of the decorations up, and that's because I was doing a Halloween-themed stream yesterday. I dressed up as one of the war boys from Mad Max, so a massive thumbs up to Pepperdy for that. She made it look absolutely incredible, and it was a lot of fun to be streaming World of Tanks yesterday, and also to be playing some horror games as well. And talking about horror games and horror tanks, what is this fat little German slug of a tank that's driving around the streets of Runeberg and being pushed by that massive Type 95? Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what this is the Panzerkampfwagen 2 Ausführung J. It is the ultimate Seal Clubber tank. Why is that, you might be asking? Well, it's certainly not fast, driving around at about 23 kilometers an hour, but it has gargantuan armor. It has 80 millimeters of frontal armor and 50 millimeters of side armor. And so that means that if you angle the tank roughly like this, you have about 90 to 100 millimeters of effective all-round armor. And this is a Tier 3 German light tank, which has preferential matchmaking as well. It can never meet Tier 5s. And so that means that you've effectively got the same armor as a KV-1, a Tier 5 Soviet heavy tank, at Tier 3. How absolutely ludicrous. However, it's not all butterflies and rainbows for this tank. I'm now firing AP rounds. And as we can see, we're unable to penetrate this Cruiser 4 on the enemy team. Or Cruiser 4. Sorry, I'm getting so used to saying the German numbers here. That poor Cruiser 4, taking him out of the game. But we had to pay a lot of money to do so, and that's because we're firing APCR ammunition right now. The AP rounds on this tank, I kid you not, the gun of this is worse than on a Tier 1 American light tank, the Tier 1 Cunningham. And I'm just trying to get away from this Hetzer right now. The Hetzer is probably one of the most dangerous tanks you could ever meet in your Panzer IIJ. It has a 105mm gun if he's choosing to use that, with massive penetration, but even if he uses high explosive rounds, they're going to rip me apart. As we can see, 3 kills by Hetzers in this matchup. Hetzers killing Hetzers, that generally is what happens when a Hetzer is a top tier tank. But we are just blocking shots left, right and center. That PZ-38T is firing APCR rounds and they're still unable to get through the front of our tank. Just, this tank is absolute lunacy. Now, as I was talking about the gun is worse than that of a Tier 1 Cunningham. It fires 10 rounds a magazine, a lot like the looks video that you might have seen that I put up several weeks ago. However, each shell is only capable of doing, I believe, is it 11 damage? Yes, 11 average damage, meaning that you do 110 per magazine. Now there's a BT-7 artillery on the enemy team, one of the few tanks that I can actually penetrate with my standard rounds. And he's firing AP at me. Thank goodness he's not firing high explosive rounds. And so I don't have to waste the APCR at least for going through this BT-7. But even still, I fired 3 clips at the guy, and I only managed to penetrate him 12 times out of roughly about the 30 to 40 shots that we fired at him there. So even the most lightly armored tanks in the game, you don't penetrate more than a third of the time with the 23 millimeters of standard penetration this tank has. And it's just absolutely lunacy, and that's why this is possibly one of the biggest gold noob Seal Clubber tanks in the game, that the penetration doubles when you decide to fire APCR with it to 46. Now with the APCR rounds on this tank, you can actually take out opponents that you meet. Oh, well, that's nice with your 46 millimeters of penetration. But this costs you an absolutely huge amount of credits. These rounds are very expensive indeed. This is a very fast way to blow a huge amount of credits, even with a premium account. But if you are going to Seal Club, guys, you got to do it right. And the enemies are firing APCR rounds at me as well. The Covenant's behind me. I've got a PZ-38T in front of me. He's firing APCR. He manages to pen once. But luckily we get around the corner and we finish him off. Oh gosh, there's that dastardly Hetzer that might have been engaging us earlier. But there were 2 Hetzers on the enemy team, so I'm not 100% sure. He fires a heat round, a 105mm heat round, but luckily for me, I managed to hide behind the dead tank that we just created, and so we avoid that round hitting our tank. If it had, it would have been very likely to be able to take us down. But now we're going after this Covenanter who's behind us. And remember that these tanks are higher tier than us, and they can't penetrate our ridiculous KV-1-like armor. Now I duck in on the left because I have to try and get behind cover because the Hetzer is going to be quick on my tail. There's also a tier 4 artillery on the enemy team who's likely to be gunning for me. I decide that this is where I need to make my stand. The Hetzer is faster than me. He's eventually going to be able to catch me. I have to try and outplay him. Fire a couple of times, trying to catch his tracks. And we take the tracks off. He fires a heat round into our tracks and we instantly use our repair kit. And I try and flank him. Next I track him again. And his heat round bounces off the side armor of our tank. And oh dear, Mr. Hetzer. I'm sorry about it, buddy, but I don't feel too bad considering you were firing heat at me. And this... oh man, when this was happening, all I could think of is that I'm going to World of Tanks hell for that. I am going to World of Tanks hell. There is no way somebody who has played 32,000 games of World of Tanks... that's it. I literally am going to World of Tanks hell for this, guys. What a filthy, filthy, filthy tank this is. And a filthy game as well. But can we finish off this 1 versus 5 situation? The enemy PZSFL Fear B on the enemy team is going to be firing high explosive rounds against our tank, which is the bane of the Panzer II Ausf G. Any high explosive rounds, your 80mm of armor doesn't really matter because they're going to splash over your tank and give you hell. Now I'm stopping here for a second to activate my binoculars, and as soon as I don't get the spot off, then I'm going to advance. Binoculars with this tank give it rather nice view range, but you're still hard-pressed to be able to find tanks with your low-tier lights, because their base view range is so poor indeed, as we can see by the blue ring on the map. The artillery could be anywhere right now. Now, when this was happening, I was thinking that the artillery would be mostly likely to be located in here and here, because he wasn't taking shots on me while I was in the town open. Where is he? Now I'm going to start to cap. Oh my gosh, he was on my right. Aim at him a few times. Try and go forwards to avoid the shell. Oh, he hits us! But hopefully we can take him out before he manages to reload. What an absolutely disgusting round in a completely overpowered tank that really has no place in the game. The only way to get your hands on one of these ludicrously overpowered tanks is to try and find the Russian Collector's Edition box of World of Tanks, which is usually sold in the Ukraine and also in Russia. And usually that's going to cost you the best part of $500 at the moment. Absolutely silly. Or alternatively, if you can get into a time machine, you can go back to Gamescom 2012 and get one of these just given to you for free. And failing that, Wargaming made this available on the European server for 1 day only on April Fool's Day this year. For I think it was €100. Now, is it worth it? No, not at all. You would have to be a raging idiot to spend €100 on this tank. I can think of 100 ways I would rather spend that money than buying a slow, big box of a tank that purely depends on its armor and to get lucky with its matchmaking. Sure, this thing is funny for maybe about 5 or 10 games, and then frankly, you're going to wish that you hadn't wasted the insane asking price on it and probably want to move on into other vehicles which are remotely challenging and vastly more entertaining. So next you guys might be asking, well, how can I take them out effectively? Well, your key to taking out this monstrosity is to try and get its side armor flat if you have 50mm of penetration. If you don't have 50mm of penetration, you're best to fire high explosive rounds at this vehicle, especially in this area here. While this plate is very well angled, it's only 25mm thick, and so by splashing high explosive rounds on this tank, you can do significant damage to it. And also remember that even if this tank remortgages his house to be able to try and kill you with the expensive APCR rounds on it, he's only going to have 46mm of penetration. So alternatively, you can angle your armor, and he's unable to get you. So let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats to see how many credits I lost when I was playing this round. So while we got a plethora of medals in this tank, including a cool-headed, unsurprisingly, a high caliber at tier 3, a top gun, a steel wall, and the one that everyone wants, but not in this tank, the Kolobanov's medal, and made 35,000 credits, which is rather nice for a tier 3 tank, even if you are running a premium count. Yeah, we spent 80,000 on ammunition. Oh my god, when you factor in that I also used chocolate in this replay, even at a discount, I lost 55,000 credits to play this tank as it was. And even while firing the copious amount of APCR rounds that I did in this gameplay, we only penetrated half of the shells that hit the enemy tanks. This thing is just filthy. 1,217 base experience points. And I guess I shouldn't feel too bad considering how many tier 4 tanks there were on both my team and the enemy team. And I guess the guy that we've really got to feel bad for is Romario, who I think fired 4 heat rounds this game and found out just how balanced this 90 to 100 millimeters of effective armor is when the PZ Alph's J is angled. Oh god, guys. I just can't handle it anymore. I can't handle it. Oh god, not you too. What are you saying?
Shame. Shame.
I just played a Panzer 2J.
Shame.